We're going to start with lines and angles. When lines intersect, they create angles. And there's a couple of things you're going to want to remember about these angles. First of all, the sum of angles around a point of intersection is 360 degrees. A straight line is equivalent to an angle of 180 degrees. So if you have adjacent angles that make a straight line, their sum is going to add up to 180 degrees. Perpendicular lines make an angle of 90 degrees, or a right angle. You may see the phrase parallel lines on test day, and that refers to lines that will never intersect. Finally, we have the concept of vertical angles. Vertical angles are angles that are diagonal to each other at a point of intersection. And what you want to remember about vertical angles is that one equals the other. Now let's take a look at an example that illustrates these concepts. We have two parallel lines, line 1 and line 2. These two parallel lines are intersected by a third line, and that intersection creates two sets of equivalent angles, labeled A, B, C, and D, and E, F, G, and H. Let's answer some questions about these angles. First, what is the sum of A plus B? A plus B are adjacent angles, and together they form a straight line. So A plus B is going to equal 180 degrees. Second, what is the sum of A plus B plus C plus D? Well, you'll notice that all four of those angles surround a point of intersection. The sum of the angles around a point of intersection is 360. So A plus B plus C plus D is equal to 360. Next, let's find the sets of vertical angles. Remember, vertical angles are equal to each other, and they are diagonal from each other across a point of intersection. Our first set of vertical angles is A and C. Our second set is B and D. Our third set, E and G, and our fourth set, F and H. Our last example says if A is equal to 45 degrees, what is C? You'll notice that A and C was on our list of vertical angles, which means that they are equal. So if A is equal to 45 degrees, C is also equal to 45 degrees. What about D? What would angle D equal? Angle D is adjacent to angle A. So what we know about those two angles is that their sum will add up to 180 degrees. In order to determine D, we need to take 180 and subtract 45 degrees, giving us a result of 135 degrees. Now I'm going to give you a few minutes to try some lines and angles exercises on your own. Go through the following examples and apply the rules we've just learned. When you're finished, we'll check your answers and then go through a few of these examples together. Okay, stop working. Now check your answers. Now that you've gotten a chance to look at the answers, let's go through a few examples together, starting with number 1. In our figure, we have two parallel lines, line 1 and line 2, that are intersected by a third line, creating angle B and 150 degrees. The question asks us, what does B equal? Because the intersecting line creates two sets of equivalent angles, angle B is the same angle as the angle that is adjacent to 150 degrees. Knowing that, we know that 150 degrees plus angle B must add up to 180. So in order to solve for B, we need to subtract 150 from 180, giving us a value of 30 degrees for B. Now let's take a look at example 5. In this example, we don't have parallel lines, but we do have two lines and a point of intersection. The two angles are 3y degrees and 2y degrees. The question asks us, what does y equal? Because those two angles are adjacent and form a straight line, we know that their sum must add up to 180 degrees. So we can set up an equation. 3y plus 2y is equal to 180. Combine your terms. On the left-hand side, we get 5y is equal to 180, and then we divide both sides by 5 to get a result of y is equal to 36. Now let's take a look at 6. There are several intersecting lines that form 5 angles: 80 degrees, 60 degrees, 60 degrees, x degrees, and 110 degrees. All of these angles surround a point of intersection. So we know that the sum of their angles must add up to 360 degrees. Because this question asks us to solve for x, let's set up an equation. 110 plus 60 plus 60 plus 80 plus x must equal 360 degrees. Now let's combine the terms on the left-hand side of the equation. 310 plus x is equal to 360. To solve for x, we subtract 310 from both sides, ending up with x is equal to 50. Let's take what you learned about lines and angles and put it to the test with number 7. The question reads, in the figure above, EB is perpendicular to FC, and AD and EB intersect at point F. What is the value of x? When you look at the diagram, you'll notice that 3 angles form a straight line. Angle AFB, angle BFC, and angle CFD. Because those angles form a straight line, the sum of those angles must add up to 180 degrees. So let's write an equation. 40 degrees plus 90 degrees plus x degrees equals 180. Now all we need to do is solve for x. Simplify the left-hand side of your equation. 130 plus x equals 180. Now, in order to isolate x, we have to subtract 130 from both sides, which leaves us with x is equal to 50, which matches with answer choice C.